The sound of glass breaking echoes in Sienna's mind. She didn't know that by buying a mirror, she would also buy her fate. "It knows your name," the seller said, his voice more of a whisper than an explanation. "Don't be scared if it calls. To you, it's seen you before." Sienna laughed off the idea, dismissing it as superstition. But when the mirror was placed in the center of her minimalist studio, in the cold glow of purple and gray neon lights, things began to change. Her reflection was no longer just a reflection. It had something to say. The mirror was simple yet captivating, with a dark wooden frame and intricate carvings, as though it were a forgotten piece from another time. Sienna, a young visual artist, fell in love with its vintage aesthetic and brought it into her studio. She hadn't thought much about the mirror's history. All she wanted was a decorative piece for her minimalist space, a place where she could create her art without distractions. But soon after, an odd feeling overtook her. It was as if the eyes in the reflection were watching her, even when she wasn't looking directly at it. Then the whisper began. "Sienna." The voice, soft and barely audible, seemed to come from within the mirror. It was a mix of fear and curiosity that crept into her body. She thought it might just be the stress of her work, the pressure of being an artist in a world that didn't understand what she created. But when the voice came again, this time clearer, she couldn't ignore it any longer. "Sienna, you are not alone." The studio was quiet, the neon lights reflecting off the white walls, creating a futuristic atmosphere. The sound of the air conditioner's faint click seemed distant, muffled. Sienna stood with her back to the mirror, trying to focus on a blank canvas in front of her. But she couldn't ignore the growing sense that something or someone was watching her dot suddenly. A chill ran down her spine. She quickly turned around, but nothing seemed out of place in the reflection. It was just her in jeans and a black t-shirt, standing in the center of the studio. But as she looked closer, she noticed something unsettling. Her reflected image was staring back at her with an empty expression, as though it were waiting for something. "Sienna." The voice whispered again, now more urgent. The reflection shifted slightly, as though it were a version of her, but with a vacant look in its eyes. Then the mirror distorted in an odd way, as if a wave of glitch passed through the glass, and Sienna's image vanished for a moment. When it returned, it was different. "You need to stop looking at me," the voice said, now almost a command. Sienna felt a shiver run through her body. Sienna didn't know what to do. Her eyes were fixed on the reflection, but she felt she shouldn't look anymore. What was happening? Was it just an illusion? A trick of her mind? But then the reflection changed again. It was no longer Sienna, but an image of herself in a dark scene, lying on the floor, eyes glazed over, as if something terrible had happened. The mirror didn't just show her reflection. It was starting to show something else, things she didn't want to see. Images of her past, her childhood, moments she had buried deep inside began to emerge. It showed her old home, a house marked by screams and shadows. It showed her mother, so sweet in her calm moments, but transforming into a monster when the arguments and pains of the past resurfaced. "No, this can't be real," Sienna whispered, her heart racing as she tried to pull away from the mirror. But the eyes in the reflection seemed to pull her back, forcing her to face the distorted images of a future she didn't want to see, but that the mirror insisted on revealing. Sienna had grown up in an environment of tension. Her mother, a woman with deep internal pain, spent her days alternating between moments of love and uncontrollable anger. When Sienna was little, she didn't understand much of what was happening. She just felt the weight of it all. The world around her always seemed out of order. When she started creating art, it was a way to escape. But there was something inside her that she still didn't understand. Something dark. Something that pushed her to create images of despair, loneliness, and pain. She never realized that the mirror now seeming like a portal to another world, was so intimately connected to everything she had been trying to hide. With each passing day, the mirror became more insistent. It whispered her name more frequently, and the images it showed became clearer and more vivid. Each time she looked into it, it revealed something new, moments from her childhood, pieces of her past that she had tried to bury. But it wasn't just that. The mirror was showing her the future as well. And Sienna's future was terrifying. It was one night, as the darkness deepened in the studio and the neon lights flickered restlessly, that Sienna had her first clear vision of the future. The reflection, now distorted and pixelated as though corrupted by a glitch, revealed a horrifying scene. Herself lying on the floor, the same vacant expression, but now with pale skin, cold to the touch, her eyes opaque, as if she were lost forever. She tried to pull away, but her feet felt glued to the floor, as if the mirror itself was starting to claim her. The reflection's eyes were fixed on her, as if it were waiting for her to complete what had already begun. "Sienna, you will become like us," the reflection said, its voice broken and full of sorrow. "You can't escape what is coming." Sienna tried to scream, but her throat was dry, as if the air had been sucked from the room. The mirror was draining her life, her strength, her essence. She didn't know how to fight it. What was happening to her? Why was the mirror so obsessed with her? Sienna began searching for answers. She pored over her research, looking for anything about antique mirrors or objects with the power to manipulate time and space. Meetings with other artists, antiquities experts, and even occult specialists didn't help. The images kept repeating. The dark future was closing in. With every new glance at the mirror, she saw herself closer to that fatal fate. But there was something inside her, something deep down, that wouldn't let her give up. No matter how far away it seemed, she knew she had to find a way to break this cycle. Sienna couldn't succumb to what the mirror was showing her. She had to understand why it was so interested in her, what it truly wanted. It was in a moment of desperation that Sienna approached the mirror with a sense of acceptance. She knew that somehow the reflection was trying to show her something she had ignored for so long. The mirror, in its distortion, showed one last image, herself, staring directly at the glass with a look of understanding. The reflection then spoke. "You can't escape yourself, Sienna." And suddenly, everything made sense. The mirror wasn't condemning her. It was trying to help her understand her pain, her history. The visions weren't of the future. They were fragments of her past, those moments from her childhood that she had suppressed. Sienna finally understood that the mirror wasn't an enemy. It was a tool for self-awareness. And as she looked into the reflection, she realized that the only thing that needed to change was her view of what was reflected back at her. Sienna finally stepped away from the mirror, but with a newfound understanding. She knew that the reflection would guide her not toward a dark destiny, but toward a deeper acceptance of herself. She wasn't running anymore. Now she was ready to create her art with all of her truth, facing what was in the mirror without fear. And perhaps, just perhaps, the mirror had learned something from her as well. And so, Sienna's journey reminds us that sometimes facing our own reflection is the key to discovering who we truly are. Through pain, fear, and acceptance, we can rewrite our future, turning shadows into light. If you resonated with Sienna's story, remember, you too have the power to face the mirror and find your true essence. If you enjoyed this psychological and supernatural dive, in the next video, we'll explore another fascinating story where the line between reality and imagination dissolves in even more unexpected ways. Don't miss it, because what's coming next will make you question everything you thought you knew about reality. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on everything. See you next time.